music off to Happy to speak. But thanks for coming along to Beers with Mates and other people who just come along to this great establishment. It's a funny thing, like we run this little meetup essentially just to have an opportunity for people to come out and meet one another. And what I'd like to talk to you tonight is around why it is that I set this up and what I'd like to do with it in the future. And it's funny, I moved over to Canada and I got to meet a whole lot of friends of friends. And it's cool to be able to meet people through friends, but it's also an interesting thing to eventually take the time to get to meet people that become your personal true friends. And I think when you move to a new place, it's difficult at times to be able to do that. For me, I'd spent a whole lot of time in this new city and I've met friends of friends and that was amazing. But I had an opportunity then to meet a mate who was coming over. He was living in London at the time. He spoke to me about this party that was coming up and I went along with him to this party. And I was meeting mates of his mates who were a lot closer, a lot more similar to the sort of people that I'd usually hang out with. And I had this amazing weekend where we did all sorts of crazy things, and towards the end of it, well, it was only halfway through the weekend, but what ended up happening was we'd been drinking all day. I was standing up on a table, a lot like these tables that are here. We were sort of part submerged in the water, and I jumped off the table, went to catch a frisbee, hit the ground, and felt my leg snap. And I went, Crumpy, my leg's broken, mate, I need to go to the hospital. And I got it all sorted. And I got some things done after that, which were great. But what ended up happening to me was I went through a period of depression that I'd never been through before in my life. And the interesting thing, I don't know if you've gone through it or something like that, but when you go through depression, you start to realise that you're actually not your own best mate. And you also start to feel like you stop doing all of the things that actually make you feel good. And I had this weird experience where I'm interested in personal development, coaching and all that sort of thing, and I had an opportunity to go along and meet with a woman who was a coach. And she asked me a few questions. I cruised along in my boot and feeling sorry for myself, and I was working in a commission-only sales role, and I ended up in tears with this woman. And she was like, oh shit, Billy, you don't really need a coach. You need some sort of therapy or help of some sort. I'll introduce you to someone. And so she did. And I ended up meeting with a woman who was moving on from becoming a lawyer. She was becoming a therapist from being a lawyer. And I ended up with 12 weeks of free therapy where she asked me some questions, got to know who I was, and pointed out pretty soon in the piece, mate, it's maybe consider having a look at doing some exercise now that you can a little bit, and consider going out and meeting people, because it seems like these are the sort of things that make you feel like you. And it's a funny thing, in my own head, I start thinking I can just read my way out of this. I can do all of my own work and this will all get better. But it takes someone else reflecting this back at you in a way where they care to make you realise what you should be doing. And so at the time, I remember I could cycle by that point. And so I got out of my bike. And you know, it's funny, I'm in a similar situation right now where I've started a new job. It's a little bit stressful. I work in sales. There's pressure on to make sure I deliver. And I haven't been cycling. I haven't been exercising. I run this meetup where I get an opportunity to meet people all the time. And that's been amazing. But I went for a ride yesterday and I was surprised at just how much better it made me feel. I obviously don't run a group where we go out on bike rides together. But I do run a group where we have opportunities to meet people on a regular basis. And I'm personally not a very good planner. I don't organise these things to meet with friends on a certain date because planning to me is so boring. But when I say I'm going to an event on the first Friday, second Sunday and third Thursday of every month, that I'm running, I'm going to be there. I know that I need to make sure that I make a commitment to people, and it's amazing that people like you show up to these events. But I think the big thing around some of this is what I know about having an opportunity to meet new people and have a group of friends, or maybe not have a solid group of friends. I left all my mates when I moved to Canada, and I moved back to Australia. I worked in a travelling sales role, and I felt like I left all my mates again. And so I realised that I needed to make some changes so I could meet people on a regular basis that wasn't just through dating. Because it's a funny situation that we find ourselves in now. It's a really easy thing for you to go on Tinder, do a bit of swiping, line up a date, and go and have a conversation and maybe get laid. But to go and meet someone in a bar, have a similar conversation, be open with them, and like make a mate over the same time, unfortunately is more difficult. And I find when you get the opportunity to meet someone, they've had their own life, and I don't know what it is, but it's a cool thing in the group that we have with Beers with Mates. I find a whole lot of people that have come in, that have gone through some difficult times in their life, and when you start to hear those stories, which is the whole point of Beers with Mates speaker series, you start to realise that it's not just you that's going through difficult times. And there's other people who've gone through similar times and they've come out just fine. Maybe gone through worse times and they've come out just fine and more than fine. And the funny thing about it is I moved to Canada and nothing had really ever gone wrong for me. I'd lived a charmed life until I moved to Canada, and just like Marcus, who runs this place, took on a little bit of risk and started to feel like I'm going to do my own thing, and actually like started to mature as a person and start doing my own thing. And what actually happens is if you don't put in the work, if there's a chance that things actually don't work out for you. And it was a funny thing for me to go, oh, I'm fully responsible for everything that goes on right now, and I have to own it if things don't work out just the same. And so that experience for me made me grow as a person, and also made me realise now when I'm going through tough times, they weren't as tough as that I went through in Canada. I've worked out ways to deal with it better, like setting up opportunities for me to meet people, making sure that I stay attached to doing a little bit of exercise, doing the sort of things that really make me happy. And through meeting people like Andy, people like Wendy, people like Shireen, people like David, I see that, you know, there have been times in my life that haven't been easy, but that's not just me. But I could be sitting at home, you know, just like reading up on coronavirus and being really worried about everything that's going to go wrong in my life. It's not until you take a step out of your own head that at times is not a pretty place, and have an opportunity to meet people who maybe can share a little bit of their story with you, that you can see that we're all in this together. And look, it's actually not that bad for you. And if you go through these difficult times, there's a chance that you become a stronger person. And so when it shows up again, like it did for me when I tore my ACL and I worried again that I was going to get depressed, I didn't. Because I was like, oh shit, I've been here before. I know this is a risk. And as soon as I had the chance to get out of my house, I was out of my house as soon as possible to make sure I was doing other things. And so fortunately, I ended up in a better headspace this time when I've been recovering from that. But I'm the sort of person that goes through and reads books to learn about what it is that people have gone through and what it is that you can learn from. Sam Walton, who ran Walmart, he got arrested, I think it was in Mexico, because he was on the floor trying to measure out how wide it was that they had the aisles, thinking that some little grocery store in Mexico could be running their business better than he was, and there was something he could learn from them. For me, getting an opportunity to meet a new person gives me a chance to sit there, ask a couple of questions, and work out how it is that they view the world and how it is that I can start adopting some of their viewpoint to make my world just a little bit cooler. We're running this event today at the Cave Inn because I remember I walked in here one night after work. I was meant to be signing up to this sort of like personal development workshop that my boss had sort of spoken about, that my colleague was signing up for as well. And I showed up here, had a sausage, I had a beer, and looked around and kind of went, you know what, you work in sales, you've worked in finance, you've been super focused on money, and there's a whole lot of other things that are more important than just making as much money as possible and seeing how that plays out. We hear a story today. Andy showed up, he's got a mate who's has cancer right now, under 40, and obviously you haven't had to go through it, but you've had a conversation with someone who's gone through something difficult, and it shifts your perspective. And for me, that's the real benefit of meeting people outside of your friendship circle, is that there's all these things that you can learn from them. There's all these things that they could be doing that you never thought that you could do. Like running a meetup group. Who says you're allowed to run a meetup group? I run a meetup group because I met a guy in Toronto who was speaking at an event where I met these other speakers at this event who were about my age. And so just walking through that from there, there was a girl there who'd grown up poor and had then like struggled with through jobs and then set up her own business, and now she mentors a whole lot of kids throughout the world, and she's doing amazingly well. There's another guy there who gave an amazing speech. He grew up in one of the poor areas of Toronto. Him and his mate now make videos and do all sorts of cool things. And his mate, who grew up alongside him and they struggled through school and got in trouble and did all that sort of thing, now makes videos for some of the biggest music artists in the world. And then Stuart, who ran this group that I was a part of, that gave me a chance to meet people on a regular basis, where I walked in and talked about things that weren't work or the weather or coronavirus, and I got to have these human relationships with people that I've never met before. And I was like, holy shit, I want to do something like this. And so, having met a guy like that, and realising that there's nothing that he's doing that I couldn't do, suddenly makes you think, well, like, what's stopping me? You know? And so, yeah, I run this. It's not that hard to do it. And so if any of you decide that you want to do something like this in the future, like, yeah, definitely ask me if you feel like you want to talk to me about it. There's probably a way that you can do it better than what I do. And there's definitely nothing stopping you from jumping up, making that decision, and deciding that that's a thing that you want to have in your life. But yeah, thanks for coming along tonight. I hope it is the case that you get a chance to meet some people along the way that start to shift your perspective around how it is that you're living life and things you can be doing differently. That's kind of the whole point of this group, and it's pretty simple that you can also show up to a place like the Cave Inn, have an amazing German sausage, have a delicious local craft beer, hang out in a really cool environment, and realise that, yeah, coronavirus is happening, yeah, there's a chance we might lose our jobs, but if all that goes wrong, what you really want is to have lived a life where you've got a chance to meet some great people, talked about some cool things, done some amazing things together, and enjoyed it. So that's kind of the whole point of all this. I'd really like to know where maybe I'm not doing this as well as I could be, and what you'd like to see in the future. One of the things, as you've seen from this, the speaker series has popped up after I've had a chance to run Beers with Mates on a first Friday and second Sunday of each month, giving people a chance to just meet up and have a beer, have a chat. It went from being this like organised conversation where Wendy, we had like conversation cards, and some people loved it because you get deep really quickly, and others were like, mate, just you burn those cards, I'm sick of it. So we ended up becoming a bit more organic, but look, like, I find you'll get a chance to meet people. People have amazing stories. I'd like for this third Thursday of the month, the Cave In, to be a time where you have an opportunity to come up and talk. Other people will learn a hell of a lot from you, and you also have a chance to be able to sit and listen, because there's a chance that someone comes up and talks about something that just opens your eyes to things and how maybe they're doing something differently. So yeah, what else could I be doing? What else would you like from this?
It's good. I'm happy.
More frequent.
More frequent? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm here all the time.
Well, speaking of more frequent, and Wendy, you are here, and I ran a walk the other day that I didn't run because Wendy showed up and did it for me. And
Oh.
yeah, and so I'm definitely happy to set up more events in different venues or the same venues or whatever. I also have my girlfriend that I don't get to see all the time because she works pretty hard at long hours, which makes it hard for me to be present at upwards of 3 events a month. So if it turns out that you want to be involved or run an event or you've got an idea for something, I'm definitely open to anything. Whatever you want, just come and talk to me. We'll make it happen. It's super easy to get it done. The cool thing about running a meetup group is that you've got 1,500 people that could listen to a message and decide to show up or not. Typically the way it works is you'll get, let's say, anywhere between 20 and 50 people that are RSVP, and you'll get about half of the people that are RSVP. So yeah, if you want to be a part of it, amazing. Just let me know. You can definitely run an event. And yeah, thanks very much for the input and for coming on tonight.
I guess we can say thanks to you to run them, because I think it's been a very good mix of people. I mean, I started only to join them maybe a couple of months ago, and I was really impressed by the people there. Actually, you feel very welcome very quick. And that's also thanks to you, I guess. Basically, I don't know, maybe the personality or the people you attract, but it's definitely straight in our ways.